A move by the governor could change the face of North Florida politics and who represents you in Congress. New congressional boundaries are being drawn up by state legislators, and Governor DeSantis has his own proposed map as well. He's also asking the state Supreme Court to weigh in on the new maps now before the legislature even finalizes them. News 4 Jax reporter Jim Piggott is joining us now live to show us how Mayor Curry figures into all this and what local Democrats have to say about the entire idea. Jim?
You know, Tom, Jacksonville really plays key in the state's redistricting plan for those congressional districts. Now, Governor DeSantis has sort of shuffled things up with that map that you're talking about on that. And his map is obviously going to bring some court challenges, but already some key players are speaking out. Right now, Jacksonville is split up across two congressional districts. Democrat Al Lawson represents the area of the urban core that's part of District 5. That's purple on this map. It's a district that stretches all the way west to Tallahassee, while Republican John Rutherford takes up the rest of Jacksonville and the surrounding area. It's the part of the map that's yellow. It's District 4. A plan by Governor DeSantis would change the city's two districts. The southeastern part of Duval County would be one district with part of St. Johns County. The rest of the county would be joined with Nassau and Clay counties for another district. Both districts compact. The governor is asking the state Supreme Court to issue an opinion now, before lawmakers pass their final maps, as to whether or not he can reject their maps down the road. Mayor Curry has joined into that fight, supporting Governor DeSantis' request. In a brief filed with the court, Curry says, given that the constitutionality of District 5 is uncertain, an advisory opinion from the court would reduce the possibility of Jacksonville's citizens will participate in an election that may face protracted legal challenges. Political observers like University of North Florida Professor Mike Bender have said Curry could stand to benefit from the DeSantis map if he should decide to run for Congress at some point after his term as mayor. Local Democrats say this move by the governor is an overstep of his power.
You can even create a compact district in Jacksonville alone that will elect a minority to Congress. So that's why this argument that the governor has made, that even the mayor has put himself into, falls on its face. His goal is to elect another Republican to Congress.
Local attorney Hank Cox is representing the statewide group Common Cause and Fair District Florida, which are opposed to the governor's request for an opinion. In a brief filed with the state Supreme Court, he writes, the governor's request is not within the purview of the Florida Constitution, and this court should not provide an opinion in response to that request. No word yet when the court would rule on this. And you know, I've reached out to the local Republican Party as well for comment. Dean Black says he's really not ready to do that at this point. And I also reached out to Mayor Curry's office to see if he had anything to say, anything more about this and what's coming out about all of that. We've not heard back from them at this point. We're live on the South Bank. Jim Piggott, Channel 4, the local station.